as a human, there are times when there's a feeling of a void, of a darkness, and of a linearity. And those moments, and I definitely experienced them deeply as a teenager and into my 20s, and it continues at times into my 30s and 40s, that it feels that this is all there is, that there are these human relationships, these clumsy bumpings that we have with each other, plodding along and saying the wrong thing and reading things wrong. And that feels so narrow. That feels like Egypt. That feels like Meitzar. The word for Mitzrayim in Hebrew is also about narrow straits. And that feels to be the narrowest of places. So for me, God is actually God is vastness. And the ability to be surprised in that vastness at how many possibilities there are. So the liberation for me is knowing that those dark moments are actually fleeting and are a problem of being in my sensory body and understanding things with my very limited human brain. I've been lucky enough to have teachers who introduced me to the practice and the patience to know that it will always come back to a place of knowing that the universe is filled with that light, and we just need to develop habits of tapping back in. Well, it's an interesting question as do we need more God in the Jewish world? Without question, people don't talk about God very much in the Jewish world. Not in the Jewish nonprofit world, and barely in the synagogue world or the education world. Our kids go to a day school. They don't talk about God there. So I think everybody needs to be talking about God as much as possible. And mainly because we need to use those conversations to break us out of our bad habits. Our habits of thinking that we're small, of thinking that we are limited, of thinking that we're separate from other people. Whether one believes or not in this idea of chosenness, what we do know is that the more you talk about God, the more you feel connected. And you get into what in the Indian tradition is called satsang, sitting and talking about truth or the divine. So without question, as much as possible, those conversations would be welcomed by almost everyone I've ever talked to. Would say, I would love more of that. But it takes a leap because people think that that's almost going too intimate. But it also leads people to their most connectedness and is the antidote to the feeling of loneliness that everyone has. So I would say, yes, more conversations about God everywhere. But then again, for people who don't want to talk about God, that's God too.